Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today, and let me tell you, this one's a biggie. We're tackling Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, yeah. This book, it's practically a cornerstone. Everyone interested in personal finance has probably read it or at least heard of it.
It's true. And I think part of the reason it's still so popular is that Kiyosaki, he doesn't just tell you to budget better. He goes deeper. It's all about those beliefs and habits, the stuff that really shapes our relationship with money.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it great for this deep dive, especially for our learner audience. You guys are all about understanding the why, right? And Kiyosaki, he really wants you to question everything you think you know about money.
Okay, so getting into it, the book starts with this interesting idea. Kiyosaki had these two dads growing up, his real father, the poor dad, and then his best friend's dad, the rich dad. And they both had totally different views on money and success.
It's that contrast that makes the book so engaging, don't you think? It's like you're watching these two different money philosophies go head to head. Like Kiyosaki talks about how his poor dad, who was a teacher, so well educated, still struggled financially. He always said things like, work hard, get a good job, don't take risks.
And then you have the rich dad, who didn't even finish high school, but he was an entrepreneur, had businesses, investments, the whole 9 yards. His thing was building assets, things that make you money even when you're not working. It's like that line, right? The rich don't work for money. Money works for them.
Exactly. That's a big one. It's not about being born rich. It's about thinking like the rich dad, understanding how money works, and then making it work for you to reach financial freedom.
I'll be honest, the first time I read that line, the rich don't work for money, I was like, come on, is that really how it is? Sounded a little too good to be true, maybe?
It's easy to be skeptical. I get it. But what Kiyosaki's getting at is the importance of making your money work for you instead of the other way around.
So passive income, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we actually make that happen? What are these assets he's always talking about?
Well, now this is where things get really interesting. See, Kiyosaki, he defines assets and liabilities in a very specific way. It all comes down to cash flow.
Cash flow. So it's not just about like the total amount of money you have in your account.
Nope, not at all. It's about understanding where your money is going, where it's coming from, the whole movement of it. Kiyosaki says assets, those are things that put money in your pocket, while liabilities, those are what take money out.
Okay, so this whole assets and liabilities thing, it really makes you think differently. Like we always hear assets and think, I don't know, a nice car, a big house, right? But Kiyosaki's saying, not so fast. Those might actually be liabilities.
Yeah, that's a real mind shift. He's saying those things, especially if they're costing you money every month. Those are often liabilities dressed up to look like assets. What you want, a good example of a Kiyosaki asset, it'd be something like a rental property. It makes you money, positive cash flow. Or a business, right? Bringing in more than it spends, even things like dividend stocks.
Yeah.
It's about having your money work, not you constantly working for it.
So that learner mindset really comes in handy here. Being able to look at your spending and see those cash flow patterns, really analyze what's going on. It's about being honest too, about whether something is really an asset, making you money, or a liability, even if it's something you love.
Exactly. Being self-aware about your money, that's so important for building wealth long term. Because once you get that difference, asset versus liability, you can start making better choices, right? Smarter financial decisions.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening and they're like, all right, this rich dad philosophy, I'm seeing it, I'm starting to get it. What are some actual things they can do, steps to put these ideas into practice?
Well, Kiyosaki's got a ton of great advice, even for people just starting out. One of his most famous is this idea of paying yourself first.
Pay yourself first. What does that even mean, practically speaking?
So as soon as you get paid, right, before anything else, bills, whatever, you set aside some of that income for your future self. Could be for investments, your retirement fund, even starting that side hustle you've been thinking about. The point is, you prioritize your financial well-being above all else.
Like put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others,
Sure.
right? Can't give what you don't have.
That's it. It's like financial self-care, building that habit, and it doesn't have to be huge amounts to start. Even if it's just like $20 a month, $50, that consistency, that paying yourself first, It's powerful.
This might sound a little scary, though, right?
Yeah.
For someone who's new to this whole thing. But one thing I love is how Kiyosaki talks about finding mentors. Surrounding yourself with people who are already where you want to be, financially speaking.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He gives a lot of credit to his own mentors for his success. And it doesn't have to be this formal, intimidating thing. Could be as simple as, I don't know, reaching out to someone you admire in your field, going to industry events, even online communities, finding like-minded folks.
It's like tapping into that shared knowledge.
Right.
And Kiyosaki would say it's even more important because, let's face it, traditional education, it doesn't really teach us much about money.
That's a big critique he has for sure. He says, schools prepare you for jobs, okay, but not for actually handling your money, building wealth, that kind of thing. That's where the learner attitude is so key.
We have to take charge of our own financial education.
Exactly. You got to be a lifelong learner, especially about money. Read books, go to seminars, listen to podcasts like this one, anything that grows your knowledge and skills.
And he doesn't just stop at the mechanics of money, does he? Kiyosaki also talks about the mental stuff, emotional obstacles that can really hold people back. He uses some strong words: fear, laziness, arrogance. He says those are like the big roadblocks on the path to financial freedom. What do those even look like when we're talking about money, though?
Well, fear, that can be the hesitation to invest, right? Or
Yeah.
to start that business. Even just being afraid to talk about money openly. It keeps you stuck playing it safe, even when you want more deep down.
And laziness. Is it really just like being lazy?
I mean, it can manifest as procrastination, definitely. Especially with money stuff, putting off making a budget, ignoring bills, not investing because you don't have time, that kind of thing. And it costs you not just financially, but emotionally too, you know?
Okay, but arrogance, that's an interesting one. Why connect that with money?
Arrogance in this sense is like refusing to admit you don't know something, thinking you've got it all figured out about money, or blowing off advice because you're too smart or experienced.
So that whole my way or the highway attitude, but with finances.
Right.
And that's got to be a recipe for disaster sometimes.
Exactly. Things change in the financial world constantly. You have to stay humble, open-minded, and willing to learn from mistakes. That's huge.
Yeah, it's like the only thing that's constant is change, right? Especially with money stuff. It's always moving and changing. So as learners, how do we keep up? What does Kiyosaki say about staying ahead of the curve?
Well, he's big on taking control of your own education, you know? He says in a world that's changing so fast, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money.
So it's not enough to just know the basics about budgeting or investing a little. You got to keep learning, keep adjusting your strategies as you go.
Absolutely. It's like you almost have to become a financial detective, looking for clues, connecting the dots, and that's where his idea of financial intelligence comes in.
Right, right. It's not just what you know, but how you use it.
Exactly. Understanding how money works, spotting opportunities, being able to roll with the punches when the market changes.
So less about memorizing formulas and more like you have to develop a nose for it. Those instincts to see investments others might miss. Those income streams that are hiding in plain sight.
Yes. And that all ties into being proactive, you know? Kiyosaki, he doesn't want you waiting around for good luck. You got to create it yourself.
Don't be a passenger on this ride. You're the one driving.
Yeah.
But I know this can sound like a lot. Where do you even start learning all this stuff?
Right. It can feel overwhelming, yeah. But one of the best things Kiyosaki says, and it's so simple, is just get started.
Just start, yeah. You don't need all the answers on day one.
Exactly. Whether it's setting up that budget you've been putting off, opening that retirement account, even just picking up a book about investing, that first step, it's huge.
Let's just say, right, journey of 1,000 miles.
Starts with a single step. Exactly. Don't get overwhelmed by the whole thing. Just focus on that next step and then the next.
And I think for our learner folks listening, that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Just by being here, you're already on the right path.
You're already learning, engaging. That's what matters. And remember, those small steps done consistently over time, that's how you see big changes.
It's those little habits, those positive money habits, building them up one by one.
And, you know, it's going to happen. You're not going to get it perfect every time.
Oh, for sure. Mistakes
Right.
happen, but Kiyosaki, he's big on learning from those too.
Huge. He talks about his biggest setbacks. Those were some of his best learning experiences.
It's that bounce back that's so important. Don't just give up. Learn from it, come back stronger.
Resilience.
Yeah,
It's key for money and honestly for life in general, right?
totally. That growth mindset, knowing you can always learn and improve no matter what.
Exactly.
So after this whole deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what are your big takeaways? What really stuck with you?
Kiyosaki always impresses me with how he can take these money ideas, these financial concepts, and make them simple, actionable. No jargon, just straight to the point.
And he does it in a way that makes you feel like, okay, I can actually do this. Like financial freedom, it's not this impossible dream.
It's achievable, yeah. And that's so important because for a long time, money stuff has felt so intimidating, right? Like it's only for certain people. But Kiyosaki, he breaks that down.
It's like, hey, you got this. With the right info, the right mindset, anyone can take control of their money.
Yes. It's about making financial knowledge accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy.
It's empowering, for sure. And if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away from all of this, it's that you have the power. Don't be afraid to use it. Ask questions, challenge what you think you know, and never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your finances.
Well said. And hey, if anyone asks how you got so financially savvy, tell them you learned it here on The Deep Dive. Until next time, everyone, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.